Alrighty, what is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another market update. Hope everybody had a lovely day. And with that being said, let's dive into the TA. All right, guys, we did get that second day pop that fall through to yesterday's reversal candlestick that printed. I'm going to be completely honest. I think today, I don't think today was too important. I think it is going to come down to tomorrow. We have the big tariff day. That is going to, really be what, sets us in stone. Let's look at it this way. We avoided another one of these, bullish reversal candlesticks that prints, and then next day we fall back down to the lows. So, for at least the time being, we're out of that. All right. But, tomorrow is the long awaited April 2nd. So we are going to have to see what happens. But, how I see it, the market has already priced in quite a bit of bearish news. If the market is to fall lower, it's not going to be that much lower. It's probably going to come down here. All right. So that would be, QQ to 450. I'm not sure how much lower, but, over here, if we were to sell down to a new low, I was only looking for a marginal low that would put in bullish divergences over here across the board. We're now seeing that. If we do end up, getting another low after we get another, day of pop here and the RSI sets up here, maybe we just go to quick new low and this divergence just still holds. I don't think it's going to be anything massive. We have, most of the market is definitely sitting on the bear side. They're in the bear camp. I do think downside is, limited from this point in time. We have bullish divergences on, every daily RSI we're going to take a look at today. So, at least for the most part, maybe, 2 or 3 of them won't have it, but, we'll look at like 20 tickers. For the most part, they're going to have it. I'm just going to point out yesterday's VIX candle, when you gap up and then fade that day, typically you pull back for another few trading sessions there on the VIX, just like you did over here. All right, you gapped up, you faded, and then you pull back the next few trading sessions. Right here, gapped up, right over here, not too far down the road, faded, and then you ended up falling for the next few trading session, which I'm going to guess was positive for the markets over here. You probably were bouncing over here on the S&P 500 as VIX over here was fading. Oh, what is that again? VIX gapped up, faded, and the next few days you continued that fade. Well, we just had that, and for all we know, we're going to get a big VIX fade tomorrow. We're not really too sure about this. We don't know, but we do know tomorrow is the big day, long anticipated, big April 2nd tariff day. And, let's just look at it this way. The market has already fell. The S&P 500 has already fallen 11%. Is it really going to fall that much further without, a decent sized bounce? Probably not. All right. So probably not. But, we did avoid one of these, and that is why today, it had some importance, but in reality, tomorrow, that's going to be the true market reaction there tomorrow into Thursday. But I'm just going to say over here on the weekly chart, guys, right, this is, the next really, important step here for this market that's going to probably give you some clean trades. Just a clean straight week of, trading next week is going to be if we can get a solid close to this. All right. I'm just going to, reference Tesla over here. So, coming into this week, I was saying this didn't look like, structurally sound, chart over here. You ended up gapping down over here, and then you had an island reversal over here, but then you closed out with a massive upper wick last week. So, chances were you were going to, end up, developing some of that structure. If we do end up closing up here near the high, and then we take out this candle high right here, this chart really won't look all that bad. All right. It really will not look all that bad. That'll be really not all that bad. You come over here to Nvidia. If you somehow close the week out over here, you're probably going to come up here, break there, and come over here. That is just, how that would look if we were to close out the week, we'll say, in this 113 to 115 zone or higher. What I do know is Nvidia has only had a range of 7%, and, every other week for a while now, besides this one over here, we've had a much larger range than that 7%. All right. A lot of them we are going to have 10 to 15% range, 15 to 20% range, we can even say. And I do think we're probably going to be getting something a little bit more than what we already have. But we will see. Just because, again, this chart looks a little skewed to me. It does not look like, it doesn't look structurally sound for a bottom. It just doesn't. You gap down, you know, and if you're not going to have, you know, bulls really show up over here like they did over here, then we'll have to see about it. But in reality, you do so over here on the market, you just even close where you are or higher, you are going to be looking really good over here on the weekly time frame. And let me just point out the last few times, all right? We should really reference why, if we get this, you know, bullish close after the gap down with the daily bullish divergences here with oversold RSIs everywhere, we're going to talk about why that's so important over here. All right, this was the last time it happened. You gapped down, you had a bullish close, and then what happened the following week? You had a 5% week. All right, so there was that one, and then you're going to come over here, and then you have this one. All right, what happened? You just kept on going higher the following 2 weeks, and again, that was 5%. All right, what about the next one? Over here, you had that. Take that off right there, all right? Boom, boom, boom. All right, so over here, you had that. What happened the next few weeks? You went higher, that 5%. All right, so, you know, it really is just important that we close the week out strong after gapping down like we just did. Oh, there was one more I was missing. It's right up here. I was going to say, I was like, there was one more I was looking at. I swear to gosh. And it was up there, I think. Let's see. Did we miss any over here? I mean, you have the same thing over here. It's like this as well. So you have this as well where you gap down and you end up giving it a bullish close for the end of the week. And what happened? The next week, you went almost at 5% higher. So, you know, this is 1 occurrence, 2 occurrence, 3 occurrence, 4 occurrence, 5 occurrence, where this condition is held, where if you, you know, gap down like that, you know, when you got everything already, you know, pushing it. I know, you know, not necessarily like that over here, but either way, you get what I'm saying. I know you're smart enough to pick up what I'm putting down. I just showed you some charts. The charts were bullish, and that's it. But it is going to come down to that weekly close. So I really just want to hammer that one home in this video, big time. If we do end up, let's just, you know, go over it over here on QQQ. If sellers are going to step in, it's probably going to be in this golden pocket in between 480.25 and 485.84. 485.84, we're going to call that seller's final stand, okay? That's your last chance there. You get above 485.84, and that's a tongue twister, but you get above there, and you're probably going to start heading up here 494.49. And at that point, you know, you're very likely going to take out this high right here and just start really pushing it here into the next golden pocket, which is going to be all the way up here at 511.05 resistance. All right, so, you know, real talk, above here unlocks the door to there. All right, above 485.84 unlocks the door to 511.05. Honestly, that's a move I think is going to take place. And then, ideally, all right, this is Henry Boy's ideal scenario, going along with, I've been mentioning it. All right, I haven't been, you know, hammering it home too well. You know, I haven't really, but because, like, at the same time, we have uncertain market. I don't really want to be in the predicting business right now. Okay, I just want to go with the flow, trade with the price action that, you know, the market has given me. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. All right, we were doing, you know, really good for just months and months and months, and then, you know, the conditions change, and, you know, for the time being, we are definitely in an uncertain market. But if Henry Boy over here was to have its ideal scenario, you're going to come right into here. You're going to sell off of there. You're going to, you know, take your time here. Maybe look something like that. All right. Maybe then, you know, sweep this low, get everyone going, you know, absolutely crazy. But what have you just printed, guys? You know, you will have this inverse head and shoulders kind of structure to you, that higher low kind of structure to you. That is kind of also what I'm saying. 1 to 2 months. I've been mentioning it in a few of my videos recently. 1 to 2 months, guys, we could very well just base out here, an actual base, you know, something like this that just takes some time. All right. And it could be 1 to 2 months, and people, they could lose their minds. It could also be something like this that takes longer than 1 to 2 months. All right. And it takes, a few months. But, these daily bullish divergence, I definitely pound the table on that. If we take out the low, probably just going to make the marginal low, the lower low, and then we're going to have the daily bullish divergence here. And the last time these really popped up on the indices, we're at these lows, guys. All right. It was at the bear market low. And you also have this one over here. So, this is kind of what I was thinking this time was going to be around. We literally went right here. I thought we were going to come down to like 450 over there in QQ. We did not this time around. Ideally, we were going to do so. But, at the end of the day, if we do sell this week, we're just probably going to make another marginal low and then, head up from that. Like, maybe QQ comes down here, maybe, 440 to 450. Okay. People lose their minds. And then, you then have, at that point, you're going to have a major bounce, a massive bounce. You're going to probably come right back up here. Let's talk about it though. Okay. 10 minutes in, that's where the head is at. This week is going to be important. Tomorrow is important. I think tomorrow into Thursday is going to be very important to see this really, the real tariff reaction there. And then the weekly close, that's going to dictate what the weekly close does. Okay. And the weekly close is going to dictate if we get what we want. All right. We're talking, 2.5 to 5% move over here next week on QQQ that we could ride up into this area. And I'm excited for that. All right. Your resistance over here on QQQ. All right. 472.41. The zone here, it's at 473.94. Above there, 476.28, 480.25. And like we were just talking about, 485.84. That's when, big things happen over here for our buddy over here, Qs. On the downside, you reject over here on the zone. It's literally just where you broke down from. You can see over here. It's a very important spot we're at right here, guys. We're either going to reject right here, right now, or we're going to, hit it with the actual reversal. You could see over here, rejection, 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 rejection. What happened? You started getting above it. I know you chopped around, but it was the beginning of a larger bounce. All right. And, it actually, you did get immediately decently above there the following two trading sessions. You had a 1.6% pop. Following trading session, you had a 1.6% pop Friday into Monday there. All right. And then not too further, too far down the line there, 3% pop. That would be the equivalent of, first of all, getting into the zone right here, 480, 485. That's at a minimum if we can take out that white line right there. All right. And it's, the same over here as well. Over here, you get above. You're going to be looking for a larger pop there. It doesn't mean, you're going to stay above, but you typically are going to be getting the larger pop. All right. And, these are the same thing as, what we do here on the daily time frame. We follow along with the, short-term moving average over here, which is why that 485.84 level is so important. You get the 0.786 fib there. You got key resistance sitting there. And you're going to have the 21 EMA here on the daily time frame sitting there. So get above there. Important things. On the downside, all right, real talk, guys, we're just going to watch 464.42 until we take out that. All right. All bets are off. We don't know what's going on, okay? But what's, the trigger for the upside? It really is going to come down to right over here, okay? How is NQ looking over here with that? You're rejecting, all right? Like we were just talking about. Oh, look, I got it perfectly aligned over here. Just posted that one. But, over here, guys, rejection, 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 rejection. You finally got above. You start getting, more of a pop there. It's a 5% pop. All right. So it's either you're going to reject right here, right now, and slam it back down to the low, or you're going to get above it. You're probably going to get some action like that. And then maybe that, or maybe right around here, we start coming back down to the lows. We really don't know what's going to happen, but, right around this spot right here, that's where it gets important. But, same concept. You ride it up. Okay. You're under. You get a little bit of spillover. Okay. You're under. What happens when you get up? All right. You get a little pop. All right. So something you could pay attention to. This is something I'm paying attention to. So there's that. All right. But on the downside over here, we're just going to be watching 464.42 over here. And that's our trigger here for taking out this low. Take out 464.42. You're very likely going to take out this low over here. So you're coming back down to 459.17 support. And under there, you have 448.19. SPY, guys. What do we have? All right. So SPY, same exact thing. We're going to be paying attention to the golden pocket. And the big level over here on this chart is going to be 570.57. You get above 570.57. All these tongue twisters going on, guys. Get above there. We're talking 576.41, and then we're probably going 580.91 to 586.12. Probably going to be testing the zone in the short term. But you know, get above here. You have a double bottom breakout. Get above 470.57 and tells you you're likely going to, you know, attempt this 576.41 over right there. If you get a breakout from there, you have a double bottom breakout, and then you start this move up here. You know, big things over there above 570.57. All right. So resistance, what are you paying attention to? You have 562.94, 566.27, 570.57. That's all you got to concern yourself with, because above there, you see some fireworks going on. On the downside, you're going to have 560.71, 558.03, 553.68, and that is the trigger for more downside. Break 553.68, bad things happen. All right, you know the trigger for the upside. We just went over on QQ. It's looking real good. All right, we're probably going to be seeing if QQ does that, you know, what I was just talking about, okay? Which, again, you want to, you know, make it easy on yourself as well. It's the same exact thing over here on NQ. I don't know if you trade futures, if you're trading, you know, but either way, same exact thing as having extended hours on. It's right over here on the NASDAQ. All right, so break above here, good things happen. And then over here on QQQ, right below here, bad things happen. We're seeing new lows. Probably not going to be much new lows, but at that point, this turns into an upper wick here, and it's going to look like we're taking out this low right here at 448.19. Probably going to at least go under there if you start heading back down to the lows. So, yeah, you don't want to take out that 464.42 level right there. That's your key. But again, VIX with what it's doing, it looks like it's probably going to continue fading. Odds are we're going to continue, you know, seeing the market bounce. Just my opinion. IWM. Oh, bullish divergence sitting over here as you came down to 196.70 and held it just there 2 days in a row. Look at that. Low of day was 196.66. Look at that. Buyers off support. EIA. Now, no bullish divergence here, but it's looking pretty good. This is one of the exceptions over here. It's not looking bad, but, you know, break above 423.14. It's going to look a whole lot better. You're probably going to be pushing up to 430 after that. All right, let's see how the MAGS ETF is looking, guys. It's got that same double bottom look with the bullish divergence. You want to, you know, a little low over here, but let's just look at it this way. You put in, you know, a false breakdown there. What happens when you reclaim something like that? You're typically going to push back up to the top of that range. We're going to see if that would happen. That would be a move all the way up here. This is the little range. You had a false breakout over here. What happened? You got sucked back into the range. So you visited the opposing side of the range. Well, you had the same false breakdown over here. And we're probably going to revisit over here at 47.95. We'll see what happens tomorrow. And we're talking Mag 7 stocks. TSLA, guys, this one is showing some strength over here. Well, it was at first, all right? But, you know, compared to the other ones, I'm not going to say it is anymore. But, you know, in the overnight session, you did get a nice little pop over here on TSLA, you know, all the way up there. It was looking nice, all right? Looking nice all the way to 270. So, you know, this was going to be a focus if the market was going to be bouncing back today. And from here, guys, you're just seeing if you could take out today's high at 277.45. If you can, that is when you are probably going to start pushing up to $300, guys. So right over here, you're going to have the 200 MA sitting there. And, you know, right above there, you're going to be pushing up here to 300. All right. Eventually, you're going to break it if you keep testing it. So, you know, a big move can unfold over here to the upside. And like I said, this chart, you know, it's still right here on the 200. You're getting the buyers stepping in. It's kind of way more structurally sound than it looked coming into the week. You just had this gap sitting there after a really ugly, you know, upper wick last week. It just wasn't looking good if you were going to reverse upward off it. You know, it looks like eventually it would be filled. And now it got filled. So it's really not looking all that bad. So that's Tesla over here. Apple, I'm just going to point out weekly chart. You're right here where you would expect to, fail. You're at the short-term moving averages. You're right here where you broke down from. This is where you're going to fail. If you're going to fail, you're right here at the 21 EMA here over here on the daily time frame. But above here, guys, above right over here, you break 225.02, maybe tomorrow you gap above there and come back in intraday off a pre-market sell, or not pre-market sell, a morning sell there, come back, retest 225.02. I'd say that's a solid entry point for the move up to 230.20. This thing is, although the weekly chart does suggest we were sitting, right here in the vulnerable position, right here, like legit. It's going to reject right here at 225.02 like it's been doing, or it's going to come up here to 230.20 and probably still going to reject right there, right? That's why I was saying my ideal scenario over here on the market really is for it to get the larger bounce, and then we come back, freak everybody out, and then boom, 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 boom. It's going to drive everyone nuts. And people are going to be like, oh, this was all, one giant thing. And then for a while, we're going to keep going up. And then down the line, you get a bigger thing than what we got. And maybe then we get a 20. I don't know. Okay. I'm going to be honest. That's what I was saying earlier. I don't want to be in this predicting business. Okay. I will just read the price action as we get it. But, these are my thoughts. You just got most of my thoughts so far in the video. But let's finish going over these Mag 7 stocks. I'll stop talking about SPY and QQ over here. All right. But, that is specifically what I focus on throughout the day. Over here on Apple, guys, just clear as day. It's either going to snap here just like it did over here. You got rejection, rejection, rejection for, quite some time. Pretty similar look over there. Rejection, rejection. You broke down and then you came right back up. You broke down. You came right back up. If we see the daily close above here, this thing is probably going to start going for a ride, and I imagine that's going to be good for the market. Okay, so that is Apple over here. If it loses to 1876, then that scenario might not be playing out, and you could see some downside. Microsoft over here, guys. Bullish divergence, triple bullish divergence, might I add. Looks like it will probably hold. Weekly chart. Again, if you close out like these, you're probably going to get a bit more of upside. It's just like over here, we gap down. You're probably going to get that bit of more upside. All right. So, I'm going to be paying attention to it. Just like over here, you gap down, had a bullish close next week. That clear as day upside. Every time we look at this condition, like this is typically what's going to be happening. All right. And we had a decently hefty gap down going on, not decently hefty. It was 1.6, but you did come down 3%, and you already are sitting 4 to 5% off the lows right now, 4.3%. Came quite a way. It's either going to reject right here and head back down to lows, or you're going to get above. It's like the rest of the market. I don't want to sound boring over here saying the same thing about several same charts over here, but they kind of do all look the same. All right, so I don't think we got to spend too much time on it, okay? Over here, the big spot is going to be 387.92. Above 387.92, we're going to be talking 391.79 and then 396.36. But if you start getting above here, you're probably going to be retesting 396.36. And at that point, it's like that same ugly double bottom look that we got across the board right now with the bullish divergences. So I think it could lead some good things for the market. Amazon, guys, big spot is just going to be 201.20. Just keep your eye on 201.20. That is where it's still the same level, okay? But now that's where the 21 EMA will be, as well as the 200. And, we already do know that is resistance. So, and again, it's the same thing about that range thing I was talking about. This was your previous range, 201.20, all the way down to 190.88. What happened? All right. Failed breakdown of the low over here. Went back up to the high, broke the high, false breakout. So you came back, closed back in it there. All right. And then what happened? You came and tested the low and you had the false breakdown. So let's see if you now push the top of the range. Let's see if we get some things going above 201.20. That's Amazon. All right. Goog, same bullish divergence going on there. I'm going to argue this, one of the weaker looking charts over here. And, I already shared my thoughts why we just shouldn't be focusing on this right now. It could take quite some time to base out. All right. And I just think, it's probably going to provide us with more frustrating price action than not. Maybe you get, if the market gets, a little bit of a trending move going on over there and you hold the current lows and you end up all the way up here, then maybe Goog has like two green weeks here. But at the end of the day, there's a lot better charts out there, like something like Meta. Meta looks freaking phenomenal. All right. Screw Google. Meta looks amazing. All right. That's my opinion. All right. Just my opinion. No financial advice will be given on this channel. I know people like to take everything as financial advice and they like to hate on, the people on YouTube and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we're just sharing our opinions and nobody has to follow along with anything. But, although we definitely got some of this wrong. I know for a fact. Okay. I know for a fact. We do end up getting more things right than wrong here on this channel. So, at least I know that is the fact. That is how it is. But still don't follow along. No financial advice there. But I will gladly share some insights. And I do think you can definitely make money off of those insights. But still no financial advice. Meta over here, guys, you reclaimed the 200. This was going to be a spot of interest right over here. You got back above today. You got the close above 580. Quite frankly, I think this thing is about to rip back up, and we're probably about to test over here at 610 in the short term. That's my opinion over there on Meta. And depending how the week closes out, this thing really can be starting to get a bigger move here. And like on a lot of these stocks, we could get it up into the golden pocket fine and we get an actual bounce going. This is more like it, okay? If we were just going to reverse off of there, that's that. But it was, it was easy going. But now you shook the tree again. And now it's April 2nd, and we know this is the big day. If the market doesn't die off this, good things are probably going to happen. We're probably going to retrace the whole move down that we sold off the news. That's my thinking, all right? That's the logic behind it. I'm trying to explain it, but that's the thesis, okay? But Meta looks really good over here, and if you can get above this level right over here at 608.86, 608.86, we'll just call it 610, all right? Set your alert for 610, 611, and if that gets hit, you're probably about to see, a bit of a larger move on Meta. And even if it's going to be a fake out from that alert being hit, you're probably at least going to see about a 2% move, just like you got over here. Get above here, you're probably at least going to get that move. You could trade that move. Right? And just take your profits when you see that, because just know if it's going to be a fake out, it's probably going to happen 1 to 2%. So trade that move. All right. And then, hold maybe half the position for a larger move, because we probably are about to get a larger move. If you have a bullish close to the week, you've had so many straight red weeks at this point, it's probably going to have a few back-to-back green ones. All right. So, we get a bullish close. We're sitting like right here. We're probably next week going to see some crap like that. Some nice 40, 50 point move over here on Meta. So I'm looking forward to it. Now, the King Nvidia over here, guys. This honestly to me looks a little wonky. I'm going to be completely honest. I would like to see a large green candlestick. It would look a whole lot less wonky to me over here on the weekly time frame. But the daily time frame, the daily chart over here, it's kind of looking immaculate. You had everyone thinking Nvidia was going to fall under 100. It did not happen. What happened instead, guys? The daily RSI. God, I know, it's so stupid. It's so stupid, Henry. What are you doing? All right. Well, guys, I'm just, doing something over the last two and a half years now, I think it is. It's been working, and it's not going to stop working until it stops working. And we won't know until after the fact. We're seeing buyers step in right around that 37 mark every time it gets hit on the daily RSI. We got a picture perfect double bottom going on here. You ever so slightly swipe the low, and now we're pushing off of that. We're probably starting something like that if I had to take a guess over here on Nvidia. And at a minimum, we're going to come back over here and test that 113 to 115 zone. That is a supply zone currently. As you can see, it was demand, and then you lost it over here. We gapped down, we retested it, and it proved to be supply. So now if we test there, we have the short-term moving averages right in that area. as well as our 113.22 to 115.14 supply zone. So we're definitely going to be expecting sellers there. So if you're longing over here, you're going to take some profits off into here. And then if you start breaking above 115.14, all right, that's when we're talking 118.92. That right there, if you take that level out, that's at the 0.786 fib. Take out 118.92, then we're talking 122.89. And then you probably are going to finally test that 200 daily moving average that we did not test over here. It was looking really good over here. It really was. And then it died. We're going to see if it can start looking really good again over here. But for the time being, I think we're about to get a multi-day bounce up into this 113.22 to 115.14 zone. If the market cooperates tomorrow, then I think it can happen tomorrow. Now, with that being said, ladies and gents, I will catch y'all in the next one. I hope everybody has a lovely rest of their day. I'm just going to point out Carvana's looking absolutely amazing over here. Lost the 200 DMA, based out underneath it, reclaimed it, retested it, bouncing off of it. Weekly chart was looking wonky, but as we could see, you know, if you put in this nice bullish engulfing candlestick, it's not going to look all that bad heading into the following week. The market cooperates. This thing has an inverse head and shoulders pattern going on. Some crap like that. Something like that. All right. You got the pattern there. If you take out 225.80 over here, good things are probably about to happen for Carvana. I think we're probably going to push into the golden pocket next. So break above 225.80. This is the move that you can expect. That's a 7.5% move. $16 move. 16-point move. Not too shabby if you ask me. PLTR, guys. A lot of puts be coming in on PLTR. But I'm just going to say, I mean, of course, not with, you know, what was happening. It was a lot of bull flow coming in there. But, you know, I'm just, you know, for the past few days, we've just had a lot of, you know, put flow come, like big put orders coming over here on PLTR. And I don't think, honestly, they're going to play out right away. I'm going to be completely honest. You're bouncing perfectly in the golden pocket. This just doesn't look all that bearish to me. I'm going to be completely honest, all right? It looks like it's still in the basing process. At a minimum, you're probably going to retest right over here into these short-term moving averages, which would be 87 to 88 bucks. And then maybe you put in something like that. But, you know, I imagine this thing is probably going to dance around here and put in, you know, not just get this little dead cat bounce over there and then fall flat on its face, looking like it wants to do a little more. Maybe it even gets up there to 90 bucks and then it goes down. All right. I'm seeing it on Twitter. You know, I've been seeing, you know, just like the actual orders come in real time there. But, you know, a lot of people are getting bearish on Twitter there. And I don't think, I personally just look at this chart and I don't think it's all that bearish. I've been wrong about a lot of things, all right? But I think I've been more right than wrong. But this is kind of, you know, again, it's going to matter a bit. This weekly close is going to be the big thing over here on this chart. It's going to make or break the chart. If it falls back down to the low, oh, you're losing the short-term moving averages. You're losing the golden pocket. You're coming back down here to 25 bucks, and you're probably going to come down here to 63 bucks. All right, you're going to start heading down towards the next support. That's if the whole market sells off into the end of the week. But as long as that's avoided, then, you know, this doesn't look all that bad to me. All right. So just share my thoughts on that. All right. And then, you know, the next and the last one I'm going to point out here that is just kind of looking immaculate to me is Uber. All right. What the heck is this? Right off the 200 daily moving average over here. All right. We already knew we had a nice setup over here going on. It decided to honestly look a whole lot better than the rest of the market. This thing is looking really good after today. All right. I think this is probably going to be getting a pop above 73.55. We're going to be watching 75.62 and then 77.58. But I think this could start getting, you know, I'm talking, you know, a few days here where you see a lot of volatility over here in the upward direction on Uber. I'm not talking about this slow, choppy price action we've had going on here. I'm not talking about this range. I'm talking about in a few days, maybe you get up here. And if you do get up there, guys, after you built out this structure going on here, you revisit, you got the inverse head and shoulder going on. All right. And at that point, maybe you do that, but more likely you're just going to shoot right through and head up to new highs. And then we're testing 81 bucks. Okay? So this is a chart I think you should keep on your radar. It's looking like it's about to flip back to being, a nice mover for the bulls over there. Especially if the market is going to give us, what we just talked about. And it all depends on the reaction tomorrow. It depends. Because, if we could get a nice close to the week, we got a lot of good setups over here that at least we know we can have confidence in for at least 1 week to give us a nice big move. All right. With that being said, guys, I will catch y'all in the next one. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to come trade with me, link is down below. Go follow the Twitter. That link is also down below. And I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace. And just to be very clear, guys, I think odds are that the market continues up, even though we got the tariff thing going on tomorrow. I do just think, VIX over here has given us a signal that it's probably going to continue fading. And again, daily bullish divergence is sitting on everything over here. SPY, QQ, IWM, most of the tickers we just looked at, all the Mag 7 stocks, most of the semiconductor stocks, everything has these bullish divergences. We're very likely just going to get a big pop to the upside at some point, or we're just going to steadily rise through the ashes. That's what I'm thinking. That being said, now I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.